San Juan City Commission, June 24th, 2014. If we can all rise for an invocation, I'd like to ask Father Amador Garcia to come forward to lead us in that invocation.
Provident God, we seek the guidance of your Spirit this evening as we begin the City Commission meeting. Grant us all the profound desire to work for the common good of the people of the city of San Juan. May our elected officials set aside petty differences in order to provide us all, and especially the diverse city departments, with an example of teamwork that creates a better community. We ask this in Jesus' name, who lives and reigns forever and ever.
Amen.
Amen.
We can face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Y'all may be seated. At this time, we will go off the live streaming as we are going to now ask A, presentation of the annual financial report for the city of San Juan, Texas for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2013. Chief Garza? I'm sorry, Chief Gonzalez?
Yes, so we have our finance. Mr. Garza.
Mr. Garza, can you come forward, please? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor of the Commission, Chief Gonzalez. For the record, my name is Noel Garza. I'm the partner. I'm one of the partners in the accounting firm of Reina and Garza CPAs, and we are.
Mr. Garza, can you get that mic closer to you?
Absolutely.
So we can pick up?
And we were hired to to conduct the annual financial audit for the city of San Juan for the year end September 30th, 2013. And I believe in your packets you have the copy of the audit report, or were given one at an earlier time. And I will just briefly go through some of the highlights of the report and try not to take too much time. I do realize you have a lengthy agenda, but just to cover some of the important items that are in the report and make those presentations to you. First off, on page 2 of your report, we do issue our auditor's opinion, and have rendered an unmodified report. There's a change in definitions and terminology, and unmodified now is the highest rendering that can be achieved. And so we have issued, as in the past few years, an unmodified report. And I'll just paraphrase one paragraph from this opinion, which states that, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above in all material respects, respectively present the position of government activities for the City of San Juan as of September 30th, 2013. So, in other words, we feel very comfortable with the financial statements as they're presented and found no items that warranted any other rendering or statements. The pages that typically most entities are interested in would be beginning on page 13, which is your balance sheet. And this balance sheet is for the governmental funds, which includes your general fund, your debt service, and all your special revenue funds, special grant funds that the city utilizes to operate on a day-to-day basis. Of course, the general fund is the predominant fund, and that one is presented in that first column. This page does reflect the full balance sheet, including assets, liabilities, and fund balances. Now, there is also a change here. There was a breakout from previous years in uncollected property taxes were shown as liabilities, but now they're shown in a new category called deferred inflows, because it more accurately represents funds that are deferred and unavailable at this point, but will be available at a future.
And would that be deferred because they've not been collected, or those are the past?
Those are all uncollected at this point, Mayor.
But we don't know which category, if they're currently that we're going to be collecting.
The tax collector report breaks down the years, and I don't have those.
Okay.
But it
So
does
it'd be the
break it down.
accumulation of what is outstanding.
Yes, ma'am. All years. And so in this first column, your general fund, it does reflect an ending total assets of $4.2 million. And total assets includes your cash balances, your investments, your property taxes receivable. As you'll note, those are the biggest three items on that asset category. And that the cash and investments represent $3.2 million, and it's very in line with the previous year. Your total liabilities are very in line with the previous year, 584,000. They were at 456 in the previous year. And of course, your property taxes are broken out. And of course, the number that is usually looked at from the get-go is the fund balance. Your fund balance ended the year at $2.4 million at the September 30th, 2013. The next column is your debt service, and as you know, that is the fund from which debt that has been taken on by the city to fund major projects and is utilized to service that debt. And so in the debt service fund, it ended at $675,000 in assets and $360,000 in deferred unavailable revenue, and a fund balance of $314,000. You'll notice the total governments includes all other funds, capital projects, special revenues, all the different special funds, and have totals. And it's a lump sum. Further in the report, there is a breakdown of what constitutes those amounts. On page 15, this is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, which is, in other words, your income statement for the year. And again, the first column reflects the general fund, and it does show total revenues for the year of $9.1 million, and that is up from the previous year, which had $8.9 million. So there's roughly $200,000 increase in total revenues for the year. Of course, the largest, you'll notice there that the largest source of revenues in the general fund is your property taxes, and that came in at $4.4 million, and it's right in line with the previous year of $4.4 million. So it also is in line with the previous year, $2.2 million, and it was at $2 million in the previous year, slight increase of about $50,000. And then your expenditures follow below. The year ended in the general fund $9.8 million in expenditures, and it's broken down categorically: general government, public safety, public works, culture and recreation. And so that ended at $9.8 million, up from the previous year of $9 million. So for the current year operations, there was a deficit in $8,000, which if you follow down to the bottom of the page, you'll notice how it did impact your fund balance, which began the year at $3.1 million and ended at $2.4 million because of the current year operation expenditures. The next column over shows your debt service. Likewise shows $1.5 million in current year revenues, which is composed of property taxes. And then your debt service payments of 1.6 million, with a slight deficit of 44,000. And then there's a transfer in to recover some debt payments that were funded by a different fund and to bring the fund balance back in line at 314,000. The other funds are, again, as I mentioned, your culmination of all the different special projects and grants. Just briefly, so you'll have an idea, on page 19 and 20 is your, 18, 19, and 20 are your proprietary fund balance schedule, proprietary fund schedules. The balance sheet for your proprietary funds, which includes your utility fund and your solid waste. The assets are on page 18 and liabilities on 19, and then your operating statement, your income statement on page 20. You'll note there under your utility fund reflects $5.8 million in current revenue and $4.4 million in current operating expenses. And while your solid waste had $2.8 million in revenue and $2.4 million in operating. I guess one page that I failed to cover is back on page 17, and I apologize for that. Page 17 is your budget to actual schedule for the general fund. And in that schedule, you'll notice it does reflect the budgets for the general fund, your beginning, ending, and then the actual revenues and expenditures. And was that your revenue budget was at $9.2 million in total, and you came in right under that at 9.157 million in actual revenue, so just slightly under the projected revenue, projected budget. And on your expenditure side, you did have $9.7 million anticipated, and $9.8 million were realized. So there was a slight excess of expenditures over the budget in total, and of course that contributed to the decrease in fund balance for the year. The pages subsequent to those are the notes and that detail some of the information related to those financial statements. And just so you'll realize what I was referring to, on pages 41 and 42 and all the way through probably 46 are the special project funds that are comprised in the other column under the balance sheet. And those are all the different schedules, all the different funds that are detailed out, and they all have specific purposes and utilizations within the city operation. On page 47 is our auditor's report on internal controls, which is required for government auditing, and this letter is issued. We did not find any internal control items that were so prevalent that required us to issue any qualifications on the report. We do reference one item that we wanted to bring to the attention, just concerning the closeout of the year, and then there was a separate item letter that we issued for some minor recommendations for areas of improvement. The last page I wanted to cover was...
Could you kind of just expand on that just a bit?
On the
recommendations?
The recommendations, yes, sir. On page 49, there's the one item that we brought to your attention, and we brought to it because of the timing. We just wanted to bring to the attention of the delay in closeout of the year, and it's due primarily to your change in staff. Your changeover in staff. You did realize you were without staff, finance director and accounting manager for several months, and so that did, when the new staff came in, they were way behind in trying to get the current operations in line, prepare for your new budget, and get the operations running. So it did take them time to try to get caught up and learn, not to mention learning the new system, learning the protocols within the system, learning the operations and policies and procedures of the government. And so it did cause some delays in trying to get all the I's dotted and T's crossed, financially speaking, for the end of the year. So we are just bringing that to attention, that it doesn't drag out into the
Just to be
summer.
clear, though, it was delayed, but it was on time. It was just delayed.
It's delayed, but it's still on time.
It's still on time.
That's correct.
The only reason I say that also is because I know that our finance staff was also under the gun with a IRS audit at the same time.
Sure.
And I think the fact that they were able to finish on time, they should be commended for that. The challenges that they faced, and yet still were able to get it in on time. And so I do think that it's important for us to know that that's your recommendation, but I also want to recognize them for the work they did being under the gun. And so Mr. Gomez and your staff, I think, should be recognized for that. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, Commissioner. They, I realize that they have, and are pulled in all different directions on a daily basis, and it's not easy running the finances of a city government. And so I too think they've done a tremendous job. And this is just a goal, excuse me, to work towards and to bring that closer to a more earlier in the fiscal year. The last item I wanted to cover with you all was on page 51. This is just a glimpse of some of the grants, federal grants that the city has received or did receive during the fiscal year and was able to capitalize on in order to fund special projects and programs without having to burden the local taxpayers and capitalizing on the federal government's generosity in making these grants available. Of course, it takes quite a bit of work on the city's side to solicit the grants, apply for the grants, administer the grants, and file all the documentation on a timely basis. But it does allow the city to provide better services to the community. And you'll note there that it did amount to $306,000 worth of an additional funding that the city was able to utilize to help operations run. So overall, despite the fund balance, despite the decline in fund balance, the city still financially is in a good position. The fund balance represents roughly 3 months worth of operating expenses, and that's always a number that we recommend to our city commissions as a goal. It's not written in stone, but it's something that you want to keep just as a rainy day fund, as an emergency fund. And so even despite the expenditures, which I understand are always on the rise and always on the increase and always pressured to provide more services, you still are in a healthy position at 3 months worth of operating expenses, and so it's still financially in a good position to be in for the future years.
I'd like to open it up for questions.
So in your opinion, which this is your opinion of the audit, generally, what would you say, I guess in layman terms, did we do well? Are we doing well? I know that there was some recommendations that were made last year. Did we adhere to those recommendations?
Yes, Commissioner, there were recommendations. As a matter of fact, I have last year's report here, made in the previous year, and all the other items that were addressed and corrected. The closeout was one, again, last year because of the timing of the staffing was an item that we brought forward. And the other items were addressed and corrected. As far as the finances are concerned, the city is very stable in its revenue and expenditures from year to year. This year did have a little blip in it on the expenditures. There was a slight increase, but I understand there were some mid-year appropriations that may have caused that to go up slightly. But the revenues are stable, very consistent from the previous year. There's a slight upward trend, and so that's always good to note. Let me just flip back here for a second to see what 2011 indicated.
Have any of the previous numbers on this report?
No, ma'am. It's really a current year reporting requirement.
Comparison numbers.
Yes, ma'am. It does show a slight, the increase of 200,000 for the year in revenues. So, in the light of the economic situation that we've been going through, that the fact that we can keep revenues stable and increase them is always a positive. And trying to keep expenditures under wraps is always difficult for you all as well as administration. Understanding the needs of the community and trying to spend those monies as wisely as possible, which I know you take to heart, and try to be very cognizant of the expenditures. So the fact that they rose this year was just a blip because of those expenditures, but typically the trend has been very consistent spending also, and it's always good to keep a close eye on those to make sure that you are able to manage your budget and try to stay within budget for the fiscal year.
I have some questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to refer you to page 15 and 16.
Okay.
And there's different references to balances, and I just need to understand what they all mean. The overall on 16, I followed you when it showed how much more the expenses were over the revenues for a total of 648,450. At the top of page 16, though, we show a negative 839,760. Can you tell me what those two differences are?
You'll notice back on page 15, Mayor, extreme right-hand column is the total government column for total revenues and total expenditures. The fourth number from the bottom is at 839,000. That's the total deficit, the total change in fund balances for all governmental funds for the year, combined all sources, all funds, and so that is the number that reflects that 839.
Okay.
And of that, 644 is the general fund.
Is a general fund. So then if I look at under other funds, it doesn't specifically state which other fund. Do you make reference with the 321, and can you tell me where that is?
The income statement
So
for
it's
those.
a combination of those through the pages that give you
Yes,
that?
ma'am. The
Okay.
special grants, the income for which is on pages 44, 45, and 46. And those are all the special grants, special funds, special earmarks that the city administers throughout the year.
Okay. Then let me take you back then
Yes,
to
ma'am.
under the general fund. The 644,144.
Yes, ma'am.
The net change in the fund balance, and then, but we state that overall it was 490,000. Is that correct? Tell me what happens.
There's two different things going on here. The 644 represents the change in general fund operations. The 490 that you're seeing on the bottom of page 16 is reconciling this page 15, and it's reconciling it back to page 12, or let me get the right page number. Page 12, which is your statement of activities on a citywide basis. So these are accounted for in a different method. These are the pages, and the reason for that very reason we don't typically cover them. They're required schedules, but pages 10, 11, and 12 are accounted for in a full accrual accounting method, which is more typical for a for-profit agency, a for-profit entity. But that's not typical for governments. But it's a requirement, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board requires us to display it this way for the readers that are not familiar with governmental accounting, may be more familiar with this full accrual accounting and may be able to understand the numbers better. There are differences, significant differences, Mayor. For example, one being that on your governmental balance sheet, you don't include fixed assets or long-term debt. But on the full accrual one, which is on page 10, we do.
Into account.
Okay, and so that's the biggest difference, and they're treated differently accounting-wise. And so the schedule, that page schedule 16, and likewise on page 14, those two pages are reconciliations between the two schedules, the two sets of schedules.
Okay, and there's a page where we show the expenses, exactly what happened, what we had projected, and then the actual, and I guess that's the very next page, correct?
Actual comparison on page 17.
Okay, so if I look at the revenues that we had projected, the 9.2.
Yes, ma'am.
We actually, when you said actual amounts, it was 9.157.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so are you saying that the once whatever revenues came in versus the 74,000 that didn't come in, we are actually at 1.157 because we did not realize everything we thought we would?
1.457?
You see on page 17 on top of where we're talking about revenues.
Yes, ma'am.
The difference between what was budgeted and final
Was the 74.
and then what you said actual was a difference of 74,000.
That's correct.
Okay, but our expenses, when I look at budgeted, we anticipated 492. Is that correct?
That was the anticipated deficit because your final budget for revenues was approved at 9.2 million, and your final expenditure budget was 9.7 million. So it was budgeted at a $492,000 deficit.
So we budgeted a deficit. 492.
That's correct.
Okay, but, and so now we go, and this is where the question comes. Then the actual was the 648, goes back to the explanation that you were giving me. So in reality, as we look at the increases, or how we can look at our expenses versus our revenue, would the true picture be the 648?
648 is what actually materialized, Mayor.
Yeah.
That's the true number. So you're preparing, when you're looking at the current year operations, the actual columns here are the numbers you want to compare this current operation to, projections for the end of the year to those, because that was what was realized. Your budget is a tool to estimate it, but it is not, as you can notice, it's not 100% accurate. So your actual is a better tool for projections and for comparisons.
So when you looked at, analyzed the revenues, we increased by 7%, but expenses went over by 16%. You make mention in one of your statements. Let me see if I can find that. On page 4.
Page 4, okay.
Yes, sir. This is only the city business type activity, so it would be specifically a category. If you look at the middle of on the financial highlights, it talks about revenues increased by 7%, while expenses increased by 16%. Okay, so on the utility funds, we are saying that at this point, we are increasing our expenses because of the debt issuance. Would that be what occurred?
Well, on the utility funds, the debt is not treated as an expense. The interest is, but the principal payment isn't.
Okay, so it has nothing to do then with our going out for issuing some debt. It's just expenses.
There was there was some interest payments that occurred.
But don't rise to that. Don't rise to that. Do not rise to that point of showing the difference between revenues and expenses.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Okay. So if we were going to assess it in 2012 and 2013, then the reflection of the numbers, because like you said, we do have to be very conscientious of how we invest our money and what we're spending, then the true amount is that overall is a 450 deficit, because we started with a deficit and then we added to that 648,450.
Was the
correct?
deficit for the current year operations in the general fund?
Okay. So if we did that, and I believe you talked about the 25% that we should keep as an emergency.
That's always a goal.
And I think
yes.
that we at the city have it as policy.
Okay.
What would that percent be as of these numbers that we would need to?
The number that you're right above that 25%. I think if you look at your current year expenditures, it's right on. It's just a hair over 25%. Maybe in the 26 to 27 range that your current fund balance is at.
So we're still at that limit, but anything that would have happened this year from 2013 to 2014, if we were having to do any other amendments through this year, then we would definitely be going below the 25%, more than likely.
If the revenues stay consistent and didn't increase correspondingly, then yes, ma'am, you probably would drop below that number.
Let me I had a few other notes, if I can.
Absolutely, take your time.
On the page 45, and you already made some statement as to where that's taken to account. I want to look under miscellaneous grant funds. And we come up with a negative 97,830. Now, why would we have a negative? What typically results in the negative 97,000? Page 45 under miscellaneous grants funds. What would necessarily have happened?
There are many small grants that the city manages, and most of which are funded by the federal government. There are some that come from other local entities, other valley operations. The county provides some funding also. Now, but where this comes into play was that there are times where there's delay in in getting the reimbursements
Okay.
from these councils and administrators. And sometimes also there are some where there's a matching component that needs to take place from the city. And if the entire amount was charged to the grant and not correspondingly revenues transferred from the other funds that were supposed to contribute, or the expenses transferred over to those, then it could cause this to occur. So it's a combination, because there's many small grants that are administered in here, and they all may have contributed. And you know, many times it's because of the delay. There's also always been, and especially in 12, there was a many months delay in getting some of those grants reimbursements to occur, and so that can cause this to happen.
And one final question. On this, increase on the expenses, were you able to, is that something that you're able to assess? How much of those would have been a one-time occurrence versus what we're going to have to carry into the upcoming budget?
Honestly, Mayor, not really. We look at the budget to actually looking at what was appropriated, and what was expended.
You would be able to tell that. It would be
No.
something that internally we would have to
Yes,
determine.
ma'am, most likely.
Okay. Those are my questions. Anybody else have questions? I just think that I appreciate the work and the information. I think it's extremely important as we're going into the new budget that we look at what we did a year ago, keeping in mind that we still have to reconcile this year, and the fact that we're already very much at the 25%, and anything else that we would adjust. I think there was a comment, or we had a discussion maybe a couple of months ago or a month ago regarding the freezing of any more expenses and hiring to prevent that. And every time that we make a decision, every time that we make an amendment to the budget, every time we look at those instances, we always have to think long-term, because one day we're going to have to pay for it. And, you know, every year we end up doing different kind of appropriations that become permanent. Those are the ones that I'm definitely most concerned about, because those you have to carry on year after year. And the fact that we went into the year 2012, 2013 in a deficit of $500,000 is pretty, you know, just not acceptable. And I think as we look at this coming budget, we're going to have a little bit tougher time, unless, you know, we got some great news on the revenues, that hopefully we have some of that. Unfortunately, many of our people are having to pay more taxes only because of valuations, but good for us in the sense that there is maybe a percentage of increase on what's coming in. But I just want to make that, as we go into our budget time, that we have to be very conscientious, and I'm glad you brought those numbers to our attention.
Never-ending battle, you know, that you all face to try to administer and manage budgets, and it's a challenge, and
Yep.
and I have to commend you all for the hard work you do and the tough decisions you have to make to make it work with the funds that are available. And it doesn't, you know, it's an ongoing situation, and thankfully y'all are here with good intentions and want to, you know, make the betterment of the city. And so I think the city's better off for having y'all up there. Thank you so much.
Item B, presentation by the San Juan EDC Director by the San Juan EDC Board of Directors to the City of San Juan, Texas Commission to discuss an Interstate 2 Corridor Master Plan and Overlay Zone for its being branded the San Juan Golden Corridor, Interstate 2 Expressway 83, and depicting possible future direction of the corridor. Before we get started, I'd like to make a disclaimer, and that would be that I have property not right on the expressway, but my family owns some, so I will not be engaging in any of the discussions. And I'd like to put that on record.
Mayor, Commissioner, good afternoon. For the record, Ismael Delgado, Executive Director for the San Juan Economic Development Corporation. We have a quick presentation we're going to do this evening. But before we get into that, given the fact that the backdrop that we were just looking at the audit and looking at budgets, back in January of earlier this year, we made a prediction that we presented to the board that in the coming 6 months we were going to grow between 4.5 and 5%. It actually came out at 5.2. So we're happy to inform that it went.
Sales tax?
Yes, sir, that is correct. Sales tax revenues Now, recently, this past month, there's what seems to be an anomaly, but I think it's going to project out. That there was, and it came out in the local newspaper, the Advents. There was a 25% increase in sales tax revenues, and we have probably attributed that to local developments that happened on the expressway. That Mayor Pro Tem, you were privy to that grand opening. But we're going to go ahead and I'm going to ask if we can go to the next slide, please. So it's going to be quick. We're going to look at the brief explanation of the San Juan EDC strategy and why. Number two, we're going to look at concerns and or challenges to overcome and reach our goals. We're going to address some possible solutions, or at least bring it forth to the commission. And finally, what the conclusions of what this means to the city. If we can go to the next slide. So we're going to look at the San Juan EDC economic strategy at a glance. This slide is a slide that we presented back in January. First for the city of San Juan and the EDC. We were asked to present at the 10th annual Edwards Abstract Conference on commercial real estate. And we made the case on this. And there was two analyses that we made. One was from a geographical distance. Another one is from population density. And that's what economists refer to as spatial difference analysis. And what you get out of this are two things. Historically, you see that Weslaco, they say, is the center of the valley. But the reality of the matter is, it's really looking at about 10 to 12 mile difference between San Juan and Weslaco. So when you're looking at Brownsville all the way to Rio Grande, San Juan is actually no difference in terms of being in the middle of the valley. That is a geographical analysis. What's different and more important here is from a population density analysis. If you look at the map, and I apologize, it's really too where you can't see the urban sprawl, but
can we get some lights, or would that affect the?
That might help. That might help. But when you look at the McAllen MSA or Metropolitan Statistical Area, what you're going to see is that in terms of population density, again, San Juan is in the middle, and that's important for marketing purpose, which we'll explain later. There we go. I don't know if, again, I apologize if you can't see that there's a marked difference here in this area where you have the McAllen, Annenberg, Mission, and the PSJ population sprawl, urban sprawl. Point being is, from perspective, in terms of looking at population density, between Mission and Weslaco, San Juan is right in the middle. Okay, and one of the cases that we made that beyond San Juan, San Juan is strategically important to the county as we look towards the 21st century. It really is. San Juan is, if I may use the analogy that we used, there we go. You can see some of the roads and highways of the Metroplex, of the McAllen-Annenberg Metroplex, as well as the PSJA. San Juan is like Midway Island during World War II. It's undeveloped, but strategically speaking, it was the most important island in the Pacific to defeat the Japanese. San Juan offers some unique opportunities that if we do things right, you know, San Juan stands to be the star as we look towards the future. So we can go to the next slide, please. So from an economic strategy, strategic regional location, ideal location that is less congested to expand and capture the purchasing power that comes from the following. Of course, the McAllen Metroplex, the South Texas region, and the northern Mexican affluent markets. That is strategically important. Now, the assets that the community has that are important here, as again, the hub, the McAllen MSA with the PSJ MSA, it's a hub for retail, trade, and commerce. The McAllen Miller International Airport, while it's not part of San Juan, is part of the Metroplex, and it's a resource that's in the area. And certainly, the arterials of 281 that go north to south, and as you go southbound, as we all well know, it's a land port, and the east to west Interstate 2 corridor that is the arterial for Brownsville all the way to Rio Grande. And finally, not least, the forces of agglomeration of having a national shrine in San Juan that bring over 1 million visitors a year and the opportunities that that present from a market perspective. Those are extremely important. So both location and regional assets, San Juan sits in the epicenter to take advantage of those things. So the strategy has been to strengthen initiatives geared towards external market demand by capitalizing on a regional location and assets to to exploit what they call an export-based model targeting regional affluent markets for development. This is a classic textbook example. If you guys have heard before, maybe in the media and the news, they talk about countries, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, as those to industrialize, to sell goods. There were market-driven, external market-driven. That's not to say that there's room for and opportunities for internal markets, and we're certainly doing that as well. But the idea is to capitalize on what we have. When we look at our cluster of high-end luxury car dealerships, we're the only city south of San Antonio, Corpus, and Laredo that's developed a cluster of high-end luxury car dealerships. So they truly have become a game changer for us, because the analysis is no longer about the internal market, the rooftops, or the population. It's about what is it agglomerating into the area. Developing high-end retail is something that we can use to piggyback on them and develop a high-end hospitality and conference industry, including infrastructure and amenities for entertainment and dining options. It's something that we need to look into. And finally, in terms of economic development opposed to economic growth, looking into developing a medical complex that produce higher and better paying jobs. And we can go to the next slide, please. This is right here what we're talking about in terms of being the game changer. Just in 2013, this past year, 190 million in gross sales for 2013. Of course, the issue there is that when people buy a car, sales tax revenues don't stay in the city. They go to the But the strategic value to that is that purchasing power is agglomerating here during the day. Right? And 2012 was 139 million, so you can see how the upward trend is coming soon. Acura is another dealership that's coming into the area. We were slated to have the groundbreaking for the first. Unfortunately, they're having issues with scheduling for the executives from Acura to come down. So that's in the works, but it's coming. They bought the land and it's coming. Next slide, please. So the concerns and challenges when we look at the expressway corridor, we have a lot of virgin land, a lot of empty land, and the concern is what's going to happen, how is that going to develop? Okay, so here's an example to make an exaggeration, most likely somewhere in a developing country. If you notice to the left, you see a lot of plight and dilapidated buildings, and to your right, you have a skyscraper that seems to have some sort of balconies with private swimming pools at each level, as well as tennis courts. The problem with that is the following, and this is the concern. Lack of planning programs with restrictions and zones for commercial development may lead to an inefficient use of land, facilitating rapid decay, and perhaps the most visible part of the city, making the area unappealing and risking the depreciation of initial high-end real estate investment. This over time creates uncertainty to attract quality business investment towards the future. And that is the gist of what we're bringing into you to commission this evening, is to consider those concerns that the EDC sees. As we go and market San Juan to try investment to the community, we see the expressway interstate to an area that can bring. That's why as the golden corridor to differentiate ourselves from everyone else along that expressway. If you see from the Harlingen to Rio Grande, you'll see the same landlocked as a city that has resources, part of the McAllen Metroplex. It's very important for us to be able to differentiate ourselves to come to our city and invest. And as we look into marketing the city, some of the concerns that we have is, what would happen if we bring if the wrong type of investment comes to the expressway? We're not here to say no to business. We're just saying we're here to bring investment into the city, but there are certain businesses that should be in the right place to have more synergistic effect with what we already have along the expressway. If we can go to the following page, please. Possible solutions: create a market certainty for investors by developing a master planning I just noticed there's a misspelling there. The T is missing there. I apologize. Master planning with overlays and city ordinances that create investment certainty by maintaining value for investors. Other things to consider, considerations for a landlocked city for going green concepts. The issue with going green is no longer something for kids in school. It's a real issue that now industry at large globally look at. It's a real part of that analysis. The term that they use is to minimize externalities, and what that means is to minimize the negative effects on the environment. So regardless whether you think that the global climatic change is due to humans or because it's a cycle in the universe, I think most responsible professional and serious scientists agree that it's here. Climate is happening. So regardless, again, whether it's man-made or whether it's a cycle in the universe, it is happening. And as a city that's landlocked with limited resources, making the investments now are important to look into. Invest now, whether it's in green technologies, on building codes, business practices, use of solar public lighting. And while the investment might be higher now, you save later. Public light costs, landfills, energy efficiency, and construction and operation are lowered over time. These concepts are important as we start looking into the possibility of doing a master plan overlay and also understanding the concept of leapfrogging. A lot of our economic base is really agriculture, government, and some logistics and transportation. So we really don't have any prior capital expenditures to amortize, such as we have an old 1960 style industrial park. We can actually leapfrog and get other industries because we don't have to amortize expenses because they haven't been done. So one final thing I want to make a point of, again, in trying to protect the Golden Corridor as we're branding, one thing also for consideration for the commission is to consider having an SOB ordinance, sexually oriented business. I think it's important. It's a city. You know, what are we trying to convey? You know, a community of quality, community of families, and certainly the fact that we have a national shrine in our area. I haven't done the study or the analysis, but it seems to me that there's a lot of religious organizations in our community. And I think they would welcome that from the commission to consider having those sexually oriented ordinances in place to prevent area. And we can go into the final slide, please. And what this means, or what we're trying to convey for the commission to consider, EDC efforts are not to duplicate city planners, but rather complement. Intent of scope is not to push for a master plan for the entire city, though the city might wish to do so when the time comes, and we would certainly support that effort, but rather the focus is on urgent need to protect the interstate corridor to better create certainty for investors and aid in the direction and type of development. And with that, Commission, Mayor, I'm done with the presentation and any questions that I might be able to answer. Yes, sir.
So basically, in a nutshell, you're saying that San Juan's the main artery?
It's adjacent to a main artery and corridor, which is that Interstate 2. It goes from east to west. That connects. When you hear leadership in UT Austin and in the UT system referring to the administrative building, talk about a regionality, and a lot of the things that they look is, you know, how do we have access to Rio Grande or to Brownsville? And being part of that Interstate 2 right there, you know, gives us that ability. I think there's no other city that can be able to give access to Edinburgh and as well as to Rio Grande and to Brownsville. We're situated, and more than that, we have the land to develop, to capitalize on that. So it's not that we're the corridor, the expressway is the corridor, but we can capitalize on the corridor that passes right through San Juan.
So we really need to take advantage of that.
Yes, we capitalize on that. Not to do that would be not to exploit or take advantage of the high-end purchasing power that agglomerates here in San Juan during the day. They truly are a game changer because we have people not just from the PSJ area, but from the South Texas region, northern Mexico, that come in these vehicles. Perhaps these cars are not cars that perhaps maybe you and I would purchase. There's people that do come in here in the area, and what we need to do is capitalize and expand on that. right? So they don't just buy their cars, but they also wine and dine and do retail shopping here in San Juan. Yes, sir.
Delgado,
Yes, sir.
One of the things that, and you mentioned ordinances and master planning, have you begun any of that? Do you have any recommendations at this time, or are you in the initial stage? I guess, are you starting? Have you already begun? Where are you with that?
Yes, sir, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking. We've been having conversations with the board. The board has asked me to come and present and be put in the agenda. Again, we're master planners, we're not urban planners. We're the EDC. Certainly, we've been in conversation with planning and zoning with the director, Mr. Cervantes, you know, and our concern is protecting this. So we've done some research in terms of what other cities have done. We've had presenters speak at the EDC board in regards why a master plan and how it's used. But I guess our intent here more than anything is to bring in concern to the commission. We would like to work, and again, like I mentioned earlier, he's not here to replace the work of city planners, but to complement that. Should the city decide that they want a master plan for the entire city, we would welcome that and we would support it. And what we're asking is if we can work together to focus on protecting that golden corridor.
One of the things that, and we discussed this earlier, and I want to bring it to the commission as well, as we go down that exercise, which I think is a good idea.
Yes, sir.
We definitely benefit from planning, but we just a caution, if nothing else, about being too restrictive. There are times when this type of planning gets done, these type of ordinances get implemented, or it becomes so restrictive it starts to maybe scare away or completely leave out certain industries. And we use the example of the Mercado in the Delta area, where their ordinances and were so restrictive that they were turning away businesses that were coming in. And that's definitely not what we want to do. Having said that, we also do want to make sure that we are attracting the right kind of business to the area. The other thing that I would also recommend as you go through that exercise is to really engage the business owners and the property owners, because the last thing we want to do is maybe throw a wrench in a plan that they already have for designed use of their own property. Okay, so we don't want to, you know, maybe step on their dream to develop something. And at the end of the day, many of those business owners are successful business owners, and so they could lend some of that expertise to our planning process as well.
Mayor Pro Tem, I think you're bringing a very important attention to the conversation and the analysis. I think you're bringing a valid point. I think here, what's important here is not to shy away investment in San Juan, is to, more than anything, is redirect it. For example, and it just without knowing the codes and permits and what can be put on the expressway, what we want to, an example would be a dollar store. I think we would welcome, if need to, another dollar store, but it would not be the right place to put it along the expressway. I think a dollar store will service the needs of the internal market of our families, right? But I think along the expressway, we need to make sure that pawn shops, dollar stores, adult, they're not in the right place. The best useful purpose for that land, which is a principle that's used in real estate, is something that we want to make sure, so as to minimize what economists call opportunity cost, in terms of you put a dollar store, you could have put something else there that could have had a synergistic effect with, say, Mercedes-Benz or Land Rover, and that's what we're talking about. There is indeed businesses already there that are successful, that if we were to create this master plan, we would create value on the properties there. Then the conversation is not about kicking them out or closing them, but then part of my job is more from a financial analysis and showing them in their balance sheet, this property has more value doing something else than doing this, and we can help facilitate. And by doing that, we increase your financial statements, you increase your balance sheet, because you can sell that property for what? You can sell it, you can buy and build someplace else, and still just increase your balance sheet just from a real estate transaction and continue in business. So part of that dialogue, in which is, I think, what you were alluding, that if we were to move towards developing a master plan, I think it's extremely important that not only whoever gets hired start working, but there's town hall meetings where the local businesses are participating. The ones that already have a stake, they already have land, you know, they need to participate in the process. Again, correct? You know, we're not here to muffle or stop development, but it's more so redirected and guided. Yes, sir.
Would we be the first to have a master plan here in the valley, or is there another city here in the valley?
My understanding, there's other master plans. My understanding that Hunt Development did a master plan. I think there might have been issues there that might have been a little bit too restrictive. I think that the crossings might have been part of a master plan as well. There on Ware Road on the expressway. Certainly it's not the first. This is a typical tool the cities do, they work for. And again, what they're trying is to optimize benefit of the useful purpose of that land. You know, and my understanding is that previous administrations, both commission and the board, have visited other areas, because I've heard them say more than once, referring to the master plan in Sherryland. So it sounds to me like they've seen something before. So it's a common practice to optimize land use. And as a city like lot, it's really something that we need to see to get the best out of the use of our land. Good question, sir.
Thank you for all the good work you do in our community, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Delgado.
Thank you, Mr. Delgado.
Thank you. We're done with our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Under item 6 of the public hearing ordinances, item A, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance providing for a conditional use permit to operate a portable food concession snow cone stand at property legally described as south 266 feet of the east 208.71 feet of lot 9, block 8, John Klausner subdivision, located at the northwest corner of Nolana Loop and Raul Longoria, as requested by Emmanuel Garza. I'd like to go ahead, well, give us a briefing, then I'll open up the public hearing.
Mayor, City Commission, good evening. Mr. Emmanuel Garza, the applicant, is proposing to install a portable food concession, which is more specifically a snow cone stand on the same property of the gas station located at the northwest corner of Raul Longoria Road and Nolana Loop. The snow cone stand that is proposed for the location is a 23 feet by 12 feet structure. Mr. Garza is proposing to install the stand just north of the gas station within the paved parking area. The proposed days and hours of operation are Monday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. The snow cone stand has its own restroom facility that can be used by the customers. The property has 2 entrances along Raul Longoria Road and an entrance on Nolana Loop. During their June 5th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the board recommended approval of the conditional use permit with a 4-0 vote.
I'd like to open up this public hearing at 6:57. Are there any comments from the members of the public for or against? Any members of the public for or against? Yes, sir, you want to state your name for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Emmanuel Garza. At this time, looking forward of opening up the Raspa stand. I'm just looking forward in anything that I need with Mr. Cervantes, any permits or anything like that. I believe that's it. Any questions?
Yes, sir. I'm looking at the building that is a picture here. It's currently where is this stand located right now?
Right now, it's in San Juan.
You have it somewhere else?
Yeah, it's my aunt's. I don't know if you're related.
Okay, but it's not on a. If I'm related, tell me if I'm related.
Oh no, in 495 in Jesse's, where Jesse's used to be. Okay. Snow cones in.
Not related.
They're in 495.
Okay.
The stand is there. It's in my aunt's property.
Okay, so it's a larger than the typical stand, correct? It seems a little bit bigger. And are you proposing that all the eatery will be outside, sir, or is it big enough that you can have seating inside?
No, it'll be outside. Yeah, it's like it'll be to go and it'll be outside.
And we have a commitment from the business owner to allow them to use, your customers to use their restroom, or you're having a restroom yourself?
It has the restroom, would be for the employees, but I don't know how it would go. I hadn't talked about that with Mr. Cervantes. If it's open for customers, I'll be happy to have it. Yeah, if it needs, it's good. I'll be good with that.
So then you're going to have to install a line for sewer and water and all of that? Okay. Okay, and it's going to be sitting on the concrete part of this parking lot for this other business?
Correct.
All right. And you don't see a problem with the logistics as far as parking and all that, Mr. Cervantes?
The parking lot is fairly big, and it's a spot of the parking lot that is not being used. So I think it will work very well.
Are they required, like other businesses, to have so many parking spaces available?
No, not specifically, but there's a lot of space for parking.
We don't specifically require it, or we? It's
Not
part
for
of-
not for a
not for this
portable
type of
food.
sense?
No.
Okay. Any other questions from any questions from the commission?
I guess my biggest question is going to be how you connect to water and sewer, and if you already know how much that's going to cost and because I can't tell from here where the water or sewer line is located, and so that would be a concern.
I'm sorry. There's a water line there where it's gonna be seated. There's a water line that's connected from the store. I've got quotes from plumbers that are certified with license certified. I've got pretty much everything towards quotes for electrical, water, and drainage.
It says here that you, at some point, hope to come back to sell prepared food as well. So will you be preparing the food at this location?
Yeah, talking in perhaps with that, it's like nachos or.
But further on down, not initially, or initially.
Initially, it's not like we can say munchies or, like hot Cheetos with cheese, all that kind of stuff. It's nothing that it will be cooked or anything like that.
How long does a snow cone stand be open, like as far as the length? Is it for like just the summer or?
Well, as how here in the valley, it doesn't get that cold, or it's just maybe like a month or two that it's cold. This first year, I would like to leave it open those months and maybe if it's really, really slow, maybe close down those 2 months. But it will be for the whole year, yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Guys, have you reviewed these, and is there any issue with the fire hydrant? Yeah. Okay, great.
Any other questions? And then at this time, I'd like to go ahead and close this public comments and public hearing at 7:03. Is there a motion for approval as presented?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who seconded? All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Good luck.
I'd like to hold a public hearing and consider on item B, an ordinance providing for a conditional use permit to operate a portable food concession stand at a property legally described as the east 190 feet of the east 605 feet of Park Lot subdivision located in the northwest center of northwest corner of the U.S. Business 83 Nebraska Avenue, as requested by Rafael Aguilar and Fabiola Ramirez. Mr. Cervantes.
Yes, Rafael Aguilar and Fabiola Ramirez are proposing to install a portable food concession stand in the property located at the northwest corner of Nebraska Avenue and Business 83. There is a small commercial plaza with a beauty salon and a cell phone store in the parking lot in that property, and it has a parking lot west of the building. There is a restroom facility accessible from the back of the building shared by the two businesses that will be accessible for this food stand.
Okay.
The applicants are proposing to use those restrooms for their employees and the customers. The applicants are proposing to install the portable food stand just west of the building in the parking lot, like I mentioned, to the west. Days and hours of operation are Sunday to Thursday from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. and Friday to Saturday from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. The parking area is paved and has approximately 7 parking spaces. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval. I'm sorry.
That's okay, go on. Is that it?
That's it.
I'd like to open it up at 7:05. Are there any comments from the public for or against? Any comments from the public for or against? Come forward, sir. State your name, please.
Mi nombre es Rafael Aguilar.
Okay, Mr. Aguilar. Tengo una pregunta.
Dígame.
Well, I guess I can do it in Spanish. Estoy viendo donde está el sitio
Okay.
y va a estar cerquitas del edificio que está allí, y si ese es el caso, ¿hay suficiente para entrada por enfrente y estacionamiento? Porque son ¿cuántos negocios en ese edificio?
Es un edificio, son 3 negocios.
Okay. ¿Y la mayoría hay estacionamiento enfrente del edificio y al lado?
Al lado.
Al lado.
Y también tiene enfrente y tiene en el lado.
Ok, ¿y va a estar suficiente para atrás de la área que pertenece al railroad? No va a estar infringing. It's not going to be infringing, Mr. Cervantes, because I know that those are very close to the easements or the right-of-way of the railroad track. And my concern is I've seen a lot of trucks and vehicles parked in the back of some of these businesses. Would that cause any kind of issues? And the parking? They wouldn't be parking because of those 3 businesses on the property of the businesses and then towards the back? Would it be enough?
I drive by there every day, and because I live here in San Juan. The parking lot where they're proposing to put the stand is, you have a car or 2 parked. I never seen it full of cars.
Okay, so it's not taking up any parking space?
It is
where
where he's putting the stand, it will take away 1 parking space.
Okay,
Yes.
and does that, if he's taking, and that's what I want to get to, if he's taking a parking space, does that the rest of the folks in non-compliance?
A parking lot full of cars. That could be that could be an issue, and you could reject this application based on that. If you don't feel comfortable.
By the hours he wants to open, the other stores are going to be closed already.
Yeah, he's focusing more in the evenings.
Sería de las 5 en adelante. El parqueadero es muy grande. Se ve chico, pero eso está grande. Tiene suficientes parqueaderos, pero todo de acuerdo con las reglas.
Go ahead.
Chief, have you also reviewed this and have made your recommendations? Okay. Ya usted habló con el jefe de los bomberos y está de acuerdo con las recomendaciones que él tiene.
Ya pusimos los requisitos que nos pidieron. Sistema de supresión.
¿Va a quedar ahí o se lo van a llevar?
Pues pensamos dejarlo ahí, pero muchos me recomiendan que lo lleven, porque
Era lo que va y viene.
sí, depende cómo se mire, ¿verdad? La gente, pues, tú sabes que hay gente rara, de repente se le da por querer cargarlo. Pero no, mis planes eran sentarlo y que se quedara ahí, para no estar moviéndolo para atrás y para adelante.
Have we included within the ordinance the agreement from the property owner to allow the use of the funds? Okay. Any other questions? If not, is there a motion for approval? I'm sorry, I need to close it. There's no other questions. I'll close the public hearing at 7:09. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Gracias. Gracias a
suerte.
todos. Y estamos para servirles a todos ustedes. A la
Gracias, Rafa.
comunidad de San Juan.
Ándale, gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Item C, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance providing for a special use permit for the sale and on-premise consumption of alcohol beverages at Palm Event Center, legally described as Lot 1K subdivision, located at 2811 North Veterans Boulevard, as requested by Roberto Garza. Mr. Cervantes?
Yes, Mr. Roberto Garza requesting a special use permit for the sale and on-premise consumption of alcoholic beverages and late hours permit until 2 a.m. at the Palm Event Center. Mr. Garza is proposing to have a security guard during all scheduled events. The City Commission can regulate the hours of operation and place special conditions through the special use permit. A public hearing was held on this request by the Planning and Zoning Commission on February, well, that's wrong. It was June 5th. Staff mailed a notice of the public hearing to 11 property owners within 200 feet. The property owner just north of the event center spoke in opposition to the permit during the Planning and Zoning Commission because of the noise. During their meeting of June 5th, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the special use permit with a 4-0 vote.
I'd like to open this public hearing at 7:11. Are there any members of the public that wish to say anything for or against? Come forward, please. Yes, sir.
Mayor, Commissioners, first of all, this is a new business that we know who the owner is, of course. Is this going to be, I don't know what it is exactly because I've never been there and I don't think I will be welcome. But is this an event center that's going to hold, I mean, celebrations, gatherings? Or when is the beer going to be sold? Only when the business is rented to hold a function? Or how is that going to be controlled?
It's supposed to, yeah. I think it's Mr.
Trevino, we can let Mr. Cervantes speak, please. Mr. Regalado, can you come forward, please? Mr. Trevino, can you allow her to come forward so she can?
My name is Rebecca Regalado, and I have RGV licensing service. I do consulting work. Mr. Garza contacted me to submit an application for the sale of wine and beer.
Okay. And it's going to be controlled only during the time frame of when the business has been rented out to hold celebration. That's when the beer is going to be sold?
As I understand, yes.
I have a question for you, Ms. Regalado. In looking at the layout of the area, is there any special requirements when there is a pool, as far as alcohol and the use of the pool? Is there anything else needed? I know he's talking about a security guard. Do you need anything else when there's a pool involved?
TABC, what TABC concern is to notify the neighbors, which we did, that they have 2 restrooms because it's on-premise consumption, and they do follow the legal hours of sale, which is Monday through Friday, 12 midnight, Saturday to 1 o'clock in the morning, and Sundays to 12 midnight. And they've only applied for for wine and beer. They have not applied for late hours. Late hours is 2 a.m., 7 days a week, but with the type of business that they have, they don't foresee to stay open till 2. It's open for birthday parties, quinceañeras. This business is already ongoing. It's been operating. I only came in to do the part for the sale of alcohol.
Correct. Okay, that was my question regarding that. Thank you, Mr. Trevino. Thank you, Mr. Regalado. Any other comments? Go ahead.
Mr. Cervantes, I know, and I should already know by now because we've covered this repeatedly, but we've set restrictions before.
12 midnight on Sundays,
right.
Yes.
And he's...
Yes, I think Mr. Garza mentioned most events will end at 12 midnight. It's very, very rarely he'll go past that. But on Sundays, we can place a restriction 12 midnight. I don't think he will have a problem.
That's the only one. I thought there was So it's only on Sundays.
Normally, when I've been bringing these things before the commission, that's the restriction that we place, that they close at 12 midnight, so.
Regalado, you mentioned just different hours. Is that a regulation that has to be abided for? You talked about Monday through Fridays up till midnight, Saturdays until 1, and Sundays till midnight.
The ABC code states that legal hours, Monday through Friday, the sales stop at 12 midnight. They have to 12:15 to consume. Any consumption after 12:15, it's a public place, can be fined and arrested. Saturdays, TABC code says you can allow the sale to 1 o'clock, consumption to 1:15, and Sundays to 12 midnight.
Okay.
So if they wanted to extend their hours, they'd have to apply for a late hours.
Okay, and this is a late hours permit?
No, they're only applying for wine and beer retailers permit.
Okay, then
They're
it
not
was,
applying for late hours.
okay, then it was misstated in the,
If they want to sell to 12 o'clock in the morning, which
It
they
has
have
to be
no
something different.
intention, they have to apply for another permit.
okay, thank you. Then I guess we would look at this differently when you look at the ordinance.
Yeah, we were told to process our late hours, but we can make the adjustment.
Yeah, because she's already told us
Yeah.
that that's not the application.
Well, that was our understanding, is late hours. But it's not late hours?
No. And
Okay.
I have a copy of the application.
You may want to
with me.
provide one to Mr. Cervantes so he can go ahead and.
So for the second reading of the ordinance, we can
Correct it.
adjust it, yeah.
Correct.
Because
will-
they do not want late hours.
And then we'll make sure in the ordinance it's what they're saying now.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Are there any other questions? Not, I'd like to close this public hearing at 16. Is there a motion for approval regarding the, with the provisions that was stated by Mr. Regalado on the permits as to time?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item is the discussion on garage and sidewalk sales. Mr. Cervantes.
Yes, this was, it has to be removed from the table.
Is there a motion to remove?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Go ahead.
Yes, this was discussed at the previous city commission meeting. I was asked to do some research on previous action. I did go through all the minutes from 2008 to 2011. In February of 2010, an ordinance did go before the city commission. There was some discussion, it was tabled, and then it never came back after that. Staff is requesting that we prepare a new ordinance that will repeal Ordinance 8913 that will increase the number of garage sales from 2 to 4 allowed per year. We're asking that we include wording in the ordinance that will be a 90-day minimum separation between garage sales. And we're also asking to include in the ordinance increasing the fee from $5 to $10.
So you're gonna, right now it was just a presentation. You're gonna try to propose it.
If the commissioners agree today, for the next meeting, I'll bring you an ordinance for your consideration.
Comments? So what do you need us to do?
Just authorize me to,
Authorize staff, I make a motion to authorize staff to submit new ordinance as presented.
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Cervantes. Appointments, consider removal, appointment, or reappointment of the San Juan Economic Development Council. I know it shows Mr. Rodriguez, but I'm the one that requested that this be put on the agenda. And I am requesting that on the members of the commission of the EDC, that Mr. Oscar Salinas be removed, and that an appointment, someone be appointed to take his place. According to the bylaws, it talks about absences. 3 or more become automatic. Also, residency, I understand that he doesn't live here. And actually, the bylaw says you don't have to have a reason. But those are the reasons. I think for the EDC to be able to work and to meet regularly and have meetings, I think it's very important that we have members who sit on that board that be able to attend. And so I'm asking that there be a motion to remove Oscar Salinas and appoint somebody in his place.
I would like to comment. First of all, I agree that they need to have regular meetings. In the last 6 months, there's only been 3 called meetings. I think that's a problem that needs to be addressed. There's been several special call meetings, and those 3 called meetings, Mr. Salinas only missed 2 of them. And then I know on more than one occasion that a special meeting was called where he showed up and then the meeting was canceled. I think that before we start removing people, we need to be more consistent in calling the meetings. I spoke with Mr. Delgado this afternoon regarding that, and he has informed me that the EDC board has agreed to a schedule that they're going to be meeting. I think that they need to have regularly scheduled meetings and try to avoid special called meetings, because that's when issues arise for people being able to show up. The other thing is that if there's 4 members that are willing to meet, then they need to meet. I understand that that's also been an issue where there was 4 meetings, but they didn't want to have the meeting because one of the other 3 weren't available. I think if you've got a majority of the members there present, you need to move forward with the meetings. And in reference to Mr. Salinas' residency, I know he owns and maintains a home in the city of San Juan for a fact, which he considers to be his home. Whether he is there or not, I don't know what information you got and from where. You could present that and we could discuss that at a future date if you don't have it today. But I think that what we need to address more than just whether he was at the meeting or not is whether or not we're having regularly scheduled meetings, because there's a lot of more special call meetings than regularly scheduled meetings. And when you go to, as I mentioned, when you go to special called meetings, that's when you start having issues about, you know, well, I'm not available because I have a schedule. And as Mr. Salinas is a firefighter, he has a very fixed schedule, which he has shared with Mr. Delgado. And so as they start planning moving forward, I think that needs to be considered as well.
Go ahead.
Going back to Mr. Oscar Salinas, I know for a fact that he no longer lives in the city of San Juan. He resides with his parents in Alamo. I personally know his ex-common-law wife, who resides in the house in San Juan, which he indicates he no longer lives there. So that's one of the reasons, you know, why, you know, we're, myself is looking into removing Mr. Salinas. I know him on a personal level, you know, but at the same time, we need people here that are committed, ready to get our city going forward. So I move that we remove Oscar Salinas and appoint P. Garcia for the EDC board.
I second that. I'd like to take it to a vote. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
All against?
Against.
All right. Then my suggestion is somebody hold him accountable. If
May I
he-
comment, Mayor, on this?
Go ahead.
I know we received applications, Bobby, on our packet, and I was approached by 2 different individuals who don't have an application on the on file. When we do, if we do appoint somebody new to the board, should there be an application on file, or okay? So we will be choosing somebody that has an application already on file.
I'd like to clarify that for you. I know
Okay,
you've not been on the
I'll make-
commission.
Okay.
I've always been a proponent, but if you go back and you take a look at the people that have been appointed in the past, for the past 3 years, and maybe the past 6 years, many of those that have been appointed never submit an application. There is no policy. It's definitely a practice that should be followed, but it's no policy. It's occurred many, many times. So when Mr. Rodriguez says yes, that's not a correct statement.
I just want to clarify, because I want to make sure that we do it the right way. If we are going to follow the application process, then I would recommend that more individuals submit their application so that we have options on who we're going to select.
I agree. I've totally
But
agreed,
if
sir.
not, I mean, like you say, if we're just
I've
going
totally
to
agreed.
throw names in there and appoint people, then I prefer this. I prefer this process with the
I
application.
always have. It started during my administration. It wasn't followed after that.
I disagree. It was followed
It was
after
not.
that.
It was not.
Mayor, if I may. Mayor.
Actually, you represent the EDC, sir, so
Yes.
you really, unless it's a general comment,
At this time, I represent the City Commission on this issue.
but that would be a conflict, sir.
I don't think it'd be a conflict, Mayor.
You're wearing
at this
two
time.
hats?
Yes, but I don't think it's a conflict this time. I was just going to go ahead and clarify that you indicated that the bylaws said it's an automatic removal if somebody misses 3 meetings. However, it says may. The other issue with the residency, I heard Commissioner Garza indicate about where Mr. Salinas lives. The residency issue is defined in the election code. It's a matter of intent. And Mr. Salinas, I spoke to Mr. Salinas about this. He contacted me to ask about the issue and the legalities of it. I did inform him the definition of residency. It has to do with his intent, where he intends to live and whether he's out of the house temporarily. He did indicate that he is not living in the home at this time. However, the residency definition does not require that he live in the home physically. It's his intent.
So I can live in Westlaco, own property in San Juan, and intend to come.
Temporarily, Mayor, temporarily. Temporarily. There's Texas Supreme Court cases on this, Mayor. And I've also spoken to Russell Gallahan at Susan Combs' office about this issue. However, again, he feels that this is a political issue. He's being used. He is paying his mortgage. He's paying his taxes. He's receiving his mail here at his home. He says he can't believe that commissioners on this commission are using this female person that lives here, a child, himself, and his current situation. I mean, he wanted to have that expressed today.
Well, he has 60% of the meetings he doesn't make.
Yes, and I think
So
the commissioner got us also
I think it
cleared that
becomes
up.
a commitment. And if, you know, all respect to him that he's a firefighter, but then it becomes a decision. If you cannot serve on the board the way that is required, then you should not.
If they're not having the regularly scheduled meetings.
Did you find out who is typically canceling those meetings, sir?
All I know is that they're not having regularly scheduled meetings, and it's not because of him.
Precisely, they're not having it, so we need to change that board.
Mayor, I did ask Patty.
We've already taken a vote. Let us move on.
Commissioner has a comment to make.
It's okay. It's all right.
Let us move on. And I still think that
So the commissioner can't make his comment because you want to move on.
we need to move on. Item under 8A, consider authorizing the interim city manager to advertise for requests for proposals for medical insurance. Ms. Gonzalez.
Mayor, Commissioners, we brought this item before you the last commission meeting, and it was tabled. We need to remove it from table.
Is there a motion for removal? I guess it's not being removed.
We have to remove it because we have an agenda item.
I suggest to Ms. Gonzalez that we do untable it and just for procedural purposes, if that's what the city commission recommends, or would like.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Go ahead, Ms. Gonzalez.
The city manager had requested on the meeting, the last meeting on June 10th, to have this item tabled so that we could get Bob Trevino, the agent of record, to speak to Blue Cross Blue Shield and see if we can get the to lower the renewal rate. Mr. Trevino's office came in with a new renewal of 9.9% from Blue Cross Blue Shield. We have Blue Cross Blue Shield and Mr. Trevino's office available for questions and answers.
Did Mr. Trevino come?
No, ma'am.
I had requested that he be present. Was that communicated to his office?
Yes,
I wanted to speak
did.
to him regarding the agent.
If I may, I'm here to represent Mr. Trevino.
Okay, you can come forward then.
My name is Corey Gonzalez, and I'm with Bob Trevino
Insurance. I want to get a clarification because I don't think that this agenda item speaks to what we're about to discuss.
Well, okay.
Because she's talking about the renewal, which is agenda item B.
Yes, it'd be agenda item B. So agenda item A is whether you're going to go out for request for proposals or not for medical insurance.
And that's what I wanted to discuss. If we're having to go out for renewals, and that was the initial recommendation by staff, transpired from the time that we first came, and it was a recommendation that we go out to look at that. And now at this point, all I'm seeing is that we're going into the next item that says, well, no, we're going to recommend one thing. So what I wanted to ask, if we went out for proposals, would that be something that we would need their office to be present, that they participate in this, or we go out and open to look at other insurances? And does your firm or your business have other represent other insurances.
Yes, we do. We are appointed with many companies. I did meet with Ms. Carmen, with Mr. Gonzalez, and they did ask for Blue Cross. If they can reduce it up to 10%, they would stay with Blue Cross, but we are appointed with Humana, United Health, with many of the top-rated companies.
So at that time, you were not asked to look at the pricing or anything else?
No. If we could meet it up to 9% or 10%, they would, that's what I was told, and I was present in the meeting, that they would stay with Blue Cross. But we could go out for bids if that's what they want.
Ms. Gonzalez, if I'm going to ask Ms. Gonzalez now a question. Ms. Gonzalez, at what point did this no longer become the recommendation that we go out for bids? Because
Well,
it's before I settled
when we
that.
recommended it on June 10th, Mayor, we had just gotten Mr. Trevino to come into the office, and his request was to give him an opportunity to bring the rate a little lower for the city. Instead of a 12% rate, he wanted to lower it under 10%. And we brought it before the commission with that intent. That's why it was tabled.
Then if we are going to move forward, we need to take a vote on this first one, council. Are you assuring me that there's nothing out there that get better rates in?
Mayor, at this point, we don't have that opportunity. If we were to go out for proposals right now, it will know the rate that Bob Trevino's office brought in. So the 9.9% would no longer be a good rate for us. Should we go out for proposals, it's kind of late already because there's a process. When you go out for proposals, you don't have the 14 days. You usually like to give your companies and your firms at least a month so that they can get everything ready, because they don't only submit one thing, they submit a bunch of proposals to us. Once the proposals are submitted, then we have to review them here at the city and turn them over to Mr. Trevino's office. They also review it. They tabulate everything, submit it back to us. We go ahead and put it on city form, bring it back to the commission. So you're already losing at least 2 months, Mayor. If we were to do that, that means that we're looking in August to start the process of having the employees get enrolled. We would have to enroll the employees. That means that finance gets involved, the employees are involved, and we would have to have a month of the money collected. So we're talking collecting 2 months in advance for the employees.
And Ms.
in the
Gonzalez,
city.
did you try to do that? Did you try to get that information before putting it on the agenda? Have we tried making that outreach for looking at the cost? You said we needed 2 months at least. Was that something we could have started sometime 2 months ago? Did something happen that we couldn't, or?
We could have looked at it 2 months ago, but we were still in the negotiating stages with Blue Cross Blue Shield at that
How long
time.
were the negotiations with Blue Cross Blue Shield?
We start, Mayor, at the beginning of April. Last year we were July, I think it was. Yes, up through July, when we finally got our 8% negotiating price for this fiscal year. It's a long process, Mayor. It's a very long process.
And so when you start the negotiation on that, because you believe that we needed to stay with Blue Cross Blue Shield, or is that we're supposed
we give them
to
the
stay with them?
opportunity. What we did, Mayor, when we brought this item before the commission the first, we asked for a 3-year, like a renewal for 3 years. The only thing is that our charter says that we have to bring it before the commission yearly, to visit it yearly, but they have 3 years. So I'll give them that opportunity to give us a better rate, to see if they can get us better rates.
So we're not going out for bids at all?
Mayor, I would suggest we wouldn't this year, but we have to next year because it's mandatory.
On item A, it's stated as authorizing an interim city manager to advertise for requests for proposals for medical insurance. Is there a motion? I don't know, do I state it as approval or denial or what?
Gonzalez, you'd be requesting a no action, correct?
Okay. And as a no action, there is no vote? All right, let's go on then to item B. Consider authorizing the interim city manager to renew the group health insurance coverage for Blue Cross Blue Shield for October 1st, 2014 through September 30th, 2015.
Staff is recommending, Mayor, to go ahead and approve or have the city manager renew the contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield at a 9.9% rate for fiscal year 2014, 2015.
Let me ask you this. I know you all mentioned a 9 point something as far as the increase. You prepared a comparison chart here for the different cities. And when we look at the proposed renewal for the City Alamo there with TML, they have a 5%. San Benito got a 7% with TML. FAR did get an 11%. There was none in Edinburgh, and then ours. What happens when you're looking at these issues and you're negotiating our rate? What do you look at to think that, well, you know, 9% is good versus knowing that maybe another city got a lesser percentage?
Mayor, that contributes to a lot of factors. Okay. And one of them is our shock factor. Anything over $50,000, if I'm right, $50,000, that does contribute a lot toward our rate renewal, or the percentage that we're going to get.
And can you explain what exactly that is?
Any kind of illness over $50,000, and the city had 3.
Of our employees?
Of our employees.
And if I may, those are actually ongoing, that's ongoing medical treatment. So that's what they take into consideration, that those catastrophic claims or shock claims are going to be continuous. So they take that into account.
Now, the fees that are paid, what impact would that have on the increase with our employees, if any?
Well, the employees don't pay anything, Mayor. The increase will be towards with the families. It is $379.55, but that also includes the ACA fees, which is the Affordable Care Act fees. That means that the city will be paying $5.25 per employee, so that that's like a little bank that if you don't have insurance, since we're in a risk, like a risk pool, they'll go ahead and save it so to help others. Am I right? Okay, other cities in that, or not cities, but other people that need it. There's also a $2 fee added to that, and that fee is an administrative fee, and that fee goes up every year until they decide that, okay, you don't need it anymore, or they don't need it anymore.
And did we ever survey our employees about their satisfaction with this insurance versus anything that might have been done before?
Yes, Mayor. At this point, I have gotten involved with the insurance for the last 2 years, and our employees are pretty satisfied. One of the reasons why they're satisfied with Blue Cross Blue Shield is because of these ladies. If there's any problems, they can go directly to them. We encourage them to go through the agent of record or through Blue Cross Blue Shield. And I haven't had any complaints from them.
Do you help them at all?
No, to tell you the truth, Mayor, no. Unless they have a question, and it usually goes to HR. It doesn't come to me. I only do the beginning portion, and that is the enrollment portion.
Do you help them? Yes, ma'am. What percentage of the people of our employees that come in for some assistance gets assisted through the city or through the record of agents?
We try to assist them there through our office. Okay. And if it gets technical or if it gets anything that relates to specific medical things, then under HIPAA, we're not really authorized to do that, so we refer them over to.
What percentage would you say of the ones that come in?
I would say about 50%.
50%. Mm-hmm. The other 50 you take care of. Okay.
Now, I've received emails from you in the past, Carmen from Blue Cross Blue Shield. Does that, I'm assuming that goes to everyone? Updates,
oh yes,
updates.
Right. If you're talking about the health, if I send it to all employees, so I try to keep them updated on what's healthy for them and what's not, and what to do, especially right now with the summer. The employees that do not have computers, like our outside employees, I always tell the directors and the receptionists, put it on the time clock so that they also can have that information.
I participated in one, but we've had several health fairs also that
Yes, we
are
have.
put on by Bob Trevino's office?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what's done at those.
What we do, Mayor, and we're going to do again, once we are ready to enroll, what we try to do is not to have everybody there again. Unless they have changes, we don't, they won't have to enroll. At that time, we put on health fairs. Bob Trevino's office and other firms, companies, they attend. They give us a lot of wellness, your free screening, and yes.
They did blood pressure. And
right, and blood
glucose
pressure, pre-screening.
test, yeah.
Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to convey to the Commission that Ms. Gonzalez and Ms. Cordero, along with our Finance Director, Isaac Gomez, prepared a package for us that is the best for the city at this point right now. They've been working diligently for the past month or so, trying to get the best health care we can for our employees. I think that's in itself says that the fact that the city is trying to find the best care that we can for our employees, and based on the health or some of the medical costs that we encumbered already, this is the proposed and the better package we have at this point. I know that it's mandatory for us to go to proposals next year, so that's going to happen. I know that one of the things that I conveyed to Ms. Gonzalez and Ms. Cordero and our finance director, that we need to be real involved when it comes down to this particular types of programs to make sure that the health and safety of our employees always at the almost priority. I can assure you that by speaking with them and meeting with them multiple times about this particular healthcare package, I think at this moment, I feel that this is what our finance, also our financial stability right now is where we're at and we can afford. Mr. Gomez, you want to?
Good evening, Mayor, City Commissioners.
Good evening.
Yes, we're had a conversation with Carmen and Ms. Cordero on the numbers, and we're looking at the projections for next fiscal year. Average, I think from last year, from 2012 and 13, the revenues increased by 215,000. It seems that's the average for the past 2-3 years, and so the revenues may be in the upper range, within that range. And so we will be able, that will be with the net increase, that will be about 25% of the net increase on the revenues, 25 to 30%. So we'll be able to absorb it, and so you know, and then we have a room for additional funding, and we have positions and some other programs that we have.
What is the total increase then that we're going to see if it gets accepted at 9 point?
As far as the dollar amount?
Yes, sir. What was the impact on our?
The dollar amount would be $89,000.
$9,000.
That is just on the specific increase on the insurance. Of course, now you have the ACA fees that Carmen mentioned, and that would be, I mean, that's additional, you know, $15,000, $16,000, which is those automatic expenses that those are actually mandated, required.
And thank you for that, Mr. Gomez. I guess my only comment on the Trevino, I don't want to call you a firm or what, but the fact that it takes us, you know, we talk about learning about it in April and then having to work it. If it comes to us at 25%, I think that becomes, automatically that you're going to know the city needs to negotiate. So when do you get that information first, or does the city get that information first?
We get them at the same time, I believe. About the neighbor, right? 3 months? 3 months prior? You got it a week before. Okay, so we just get it 1 week before the city does to review.
And I guess
and we usually meet with Carmen and
right
we
away
talk about it and we
start
try
talking
to see,
and working it.
Yes, exactly.
Because to be told, you know, we run out of time because we're still negotiating and we're not going to be able to, just feels like if this could have been done early and said this is the best that we can do, and that gives us the option, well, maybe we do need to go out to see if we can get better bids. But, you know, I think one of the ways I talked to Ms. Gonzalez about it was sometimes you feel like there's a gun to your head, you take it or you don't, and if you don't, you're taking a risk.
And we have Blue Cross with a lot of our cities, and I'm sorry, we do the city, but for the school districts, and housing authorities, and they've worked very good with us in trying to bring that rate down with Blue Cross. So we were very confident that they could bring it in lower.
Like, it would be a matter of trying to work it sooner.
Yes.
Than having to wait a week before we get on the agenda. I think that's my concern.
Now, that process, though, I know Carmen is involved. She's our account manager for the city, so I don't know. I can't really speak for her in that and how soon she got it and reviewed it and met with her, because I wasn't part of that.
You all do not charge the city. You take a percentage of what you sell to us. Is that correct?
I
That's how you make your
believe,
profit?
yes, there is a percentage, a very small percentage that the agent does get. It's like a 4% in 4% commission rate.
Did we need to have a contract? Remember that was brought up.
Here, I have also spoke to Ms. Gonzalez about this issue. If we were going to go into issues with the agent of record, we would need to place it on the agenda before we talk about that. She was concerned about that earlier today. Okay, so I'd ask that we not talk about contracts or anything of that nature.
No, we can put it on the next agenda then. Thank you. Are there any other questions? If not, is there a motion for approval?
Motion to approve is
Is there a
presented.
second? All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Carmen. Consider authorizing the interim city manager to enter into cooperation agreement with the County of Hidalgo Urban County Program for participation in the Community Development Block Program. Mr. Gonzalez, Chief Gonzalez?
Yes, Mayor Commission, this is just a standard resolution of, that we are engaged in. This is for next, for 15-17 fiscal year. We have some current projects right now, but this is, we need to submit this resolution so we can go ahead and proceed with the services with them.
Is it a standard boilerplate agreement that's been reviewed?
Yes.
Are there any questions? If not, is there a motion for approval? Is there a second? All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item D, consider preliminary and final plat approval of the Amalgam property subdivision being a 1.08 acre tract of land out of Lot 10, Block 39, Alamo Land and Sugar Company subdivision located at the southwest corner FM 495 and Coconut Palm Avenue, as requested by Quintanilla Headley and Associates, Inc. Mr. Cervantes.
Yes, the owners are proposing to divide the property into 2 commercial lots in order to maximize the use of the property in the future. They're proposing to build a commercial daycare on the bigger lot and allow for another business on the smaller lot in the future. It is noted that the project engineer is requesting a variance on the 100-foot minimum width requirements on commercial lots and the 15-foot utility easement required along the perimeter of the subdivision. During their June 5th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with a 4-0 vote of the preliminary and final plat of the subdivision, subject to the requirements and granting the variance on the minimum width requirements for commercial lots, and granting the variance on the required utility easement along the west side of the subdivision, and reducing the width of the required utility easement along the north, south, and east sides of the subdivision to 10 feet.
Questions?
Why do they need this variance?
In the code for commercial lots, it says the minimum frontage is 150 feet. So they need a variance on that.
They won't be able to make the
Otherwise, it has to be 1 lot. They want to do the 2 lots, or if we don't give them that variance, they will only be able to do the 1 lot subdivision. And in the code, we have requirements of all subdivisions. We require a 15-foot utility easement along the perimeter, but because this is a small subdivision, it's not very feasible to make that requirement. So we kind of compromised with the engineer, and we came up with what you have. Yeah, yes, I have no objections, yes.
How is that different from the corner of Sam Houston and I Road?
On Sam Houston and I Road, that was a dedication of right-of-way. That was not utility easements.
Didn't affect the easements that they were asking on the frontage
No,
of Sam Houston?
the issue there was a dedication of right-of-way that the developer didn't want to do. In here, the right-of-way is in place. There's no dedication necessary. It's just the easements. If you require all the utility easements along the perimeter, it really limits your buildable area, right?
Now, is this different? I thought we had gotten one already. Someone applied for a used for a daycare in this area?
It was, if you remember, we changed the zoning.
Right?
Uh,
But is it this property?
This property,
Oh,
yes.
okay, okay.
It was a zoning change from neighborhood commercial to general business.
So now this is just a variance request?
Just the subdivision, after the subdivision is recorded, you will see a commercial daycare under construction pretty soon.
And did you resolve the issue with the ingress and egress from 495
That's
onto the
gonna
property?
be, when they come in for a site plan, that's when we're gonna be reviewing that.
You have to-
They're not at that point yet.
That was a condition of their approval.
Yeah, if you can put, like, place a condition on this plat that there will be no access.
I thought we did that when we approved.
No, that was not, it was discussed, but now is the time to.
So this
to
is
do
when
it.
we would make
Yes.
that restriction?
Yes, if that's
So that way, when you go in there, you say, well, this is a condition of your.
Yes.
Mr. Quintanilla, did you? You look like you're about to say something.
I would like the opportunity.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Alfonso Quintanilla, I'm the project engineer. The issue with the driveway, I think most of you will remember there used to be a residence here, there that recently burned. And then my clients bought from those people. But there are a couple of existing driveways onto that property, which, by the way, because of the size, as you know, is 1 acre, a little over 1 acre, so it's pretty sizable. But most of the time, well, TxDOT manages the driveways onto 495, obviously, right? And we would like to be given the opportunity to see. I think they will grant us one there, but definitely the other one has to be on Coconut Palm Avenue, which is the most logical and reasonable thing to do. But I think they will allow, because there's 2 there already, I think they will honor at least one of them. So I would like to see if we can, at least for lot 1, which is the one fronting 495, be given the chance to have that. The other one it has a lot of frontage on Coconut Palm Avenue, so obviously that's the best place to have, the access for that lot, which is where the daycare is gonna go.
Well, I guess the consideration has to be that it's a commercial and that's a residential, and you're looking at residents being impacted. So whatever, in considering whether, hopefully TxDOT does give you that's some relief for our residential streets. So it's of great concern that be looked at very carefully. So if we were able to carry that from the last discussion onto this particular approval, I think that would be appropriate.
I'll work with the engineer and try to minimize the impact to Coconut Palm as much as possible.
But I am glad that I'm part of bringing more business to the city.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Quintanilla.
Thank you.
A lot of kids. Any questions? Is there a motion for approval?
Motion to approve as presented.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item E, consider the preliminary and final plat approval of San Juan Plaza subdivision being 2.46 acre tract of land out of lot 12, block 8, John Klausner subdivision located approximately 500 feet west of Raul Longoria along the south side of Nolana Loop as requested by R. Gutierrez Engineering Corporation. Mr. Cervantes.
Yes, the developer is proposing to subdivide 2.46 into one commercial lot to build a 20,000 to 25,000 square foot retail plaza. There are existing water and sewer lines available. The water line along the south side of Nolana Loop belongs to North Alamo Water Supply Corporation. The existing 12-inch sewer line will need to be extended along the front of the property to the west to allow the properties west of this property to connect to that line in the future. The developer will be requesting a sewer line reimbursement agreement so that when the properties to the west develop, the owner of the San Juan Plaza subdivision will be reimbursed for a portion of his expense. During their June 5th meeting, Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval.
Mr. Cervantes, I didn't see any specifics as to how many businesses or is it going to be how many retail spaces were going to be incorporated into this plaza.
It's going to be very similar to the one on Carroll and Cesar Chavez. Sometimes you have more than one suite, and so it could be up, I think it's 10 different suites, but sometimes you have businesses that use 2 or 3.
With the expansion of the road, have you talked to, well, that part of the street is ours? Between Nolana, between I Road and Raul Longoria? So with the expansion of the road and the creation, that's something that you're talking, would you need to be talking now or be breaking for inroads into that, or driveways in and out?
The project engineer will have to visit with TxDOT to get permits to access Nolana, because Nolana is a state road. From Veterans to Raul Longoria is a state, to the east is city.
That's the city part,
Yeah.
okay.
So they'll have to get a permit from TxDOT. I think they're looking at 2 entrances from Nolana.
Are there any questions? Is there a motion for approval?
Motion to approve is presented.
Is there a second? All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item F, consider resolution authorizing the tax resale based on bids submitted to the Lindbarger, Gogan, Blair, and Sampson LLP attorneys at law at tax resale properties described as follows: 0.37 acre more or less out of the north end of Lot 13, Block 35, Alamo Land and Sugar Company subdivisions, Lot 25, Aldama subdivision, 0.776 acre more or less out of Lot 5, Block 17, John Klausner subdivision. Mr. Cano?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Michael Cano. I'm with the Linebarger Law Firm, obviously your delinquent tax attorneys. And for your consideration tonight, these are 3 properties that we foreclosed on that we've submitted for tax resale. And I'm going to go ahead and quickly explain this process because I want to caution everybody that we're not displacing families from their home here. And I'm very proud to say that in all the years that we've been representing the city of San Juan, we've never displaced a family from their homestead. And we work really, really hard with your property owners with their homesteads to get them to pay their delinquencies. And most of them do. You know, an overwhelming majority of them come in, and those who do not pay, it's probably because they have a tax deferral. These properties that you have before you, once we foreclose on a property, once we actually take a judgment, there's a deficiency in taxes, there's a delinquency in taxes, we take a judgment in a court of law. Then we have to, by law, present it for a tax sale. At a tax sale, first impression, we have to start the opening bid by statute at the amount of taxes owed. So a lot of the times, the tax owed is pretty high. Many times it gets very close to what the appraised value of the property is. And if no one bids, and these are all public auctions that are conducted at the county courthouse steps the first Tuesday of every month, if no one bids on that property is struck off to the school district to hold in trust for the remaining entities. And the reason why it's struck off to the school district is because the school district technically is usually owed more of the taxes than it's the city's second in line. But the school district will hold it in trust for the remaining entities, and then we come back and we do what's called the tax resale. And basically we present it at another public auction, and we're off, and at that particular auction, the sheriff's deputy, which conducts all these auctions, actually takes the opening bid again at what was owed in taxes. If nothing's offered, then we start coming down, or the sheriff's deputy comes down. And most of these auctions are attended by several hundred investors from around the county. So this is a usual process. This past June, we went through this process. It's something we go through several times a year. There was 3 properties that fell here within the city of San Juan. And I will tell you, I know it sounds somewhat, it sounds awkward, but it's true that these are actually very beneficial foreclosures. If you look at your packet, and I believe each one of you has a packet of these 3 properties in your meeting packet, you'll see that 2 of these properties, the first 2, have abandoned structures on them, and these are eyesores within the community.
What are the physical addresses? I recognize one of the buildings, I can't tell where the other
I apologize if they're not in there. We normally do put the normally in the property location. I'll tell you that the first one is the one across the street on Business 83 from, on Cesar Chavez, right across from Alamo Junior High. The second one, I don't know the physical location, and I apologize, Mayor, because normally it is under property location, under the legal description, and it seems like our office didn't leave those out accidentally. And the last one is about 3/4 of an acre, and it's just empty land. This is a vacant lot. I don't have the actual physical. Okay. I can certainly get you maps of that and whatnot. But each one of these properties, Mayor, even though these properties are struck off to the school district, The biggest burden is to the city, because obviously the school district's not concerned about the safety and the health of the citizens. It's really the city. The city's concerned more with the eyesores that it has property-wise. These properties, because they've been struck off to the local school district, they're also not being assessed taxes. So what you have are these eyesore properties who have a large delinquency, who are sitting out there, and they're no longer being taxed. So what we need to do is get them out there. We sell them at the best price we can, and for the most part, we're collecting about a third, give or take, about a third of what's owed in delinquent taxes. We take that, and the city stands to make about $10,000 off these properties. But the most important part is we put these on the active tax roll. Every one of these property owners, these bidders, these investors, an overwhelming majority of the time, they come in, they have an obligation to clean up the property. They usually, turn around and improve their property, increase their property value. They erect some type of a commercial property, a house, they rent them out. So this adds value to the tax roll. They pay their taxes on time, and it makes this, it turns it from a non-productive property to a productive property. There's not one investor that purchased all three. All three of these were purchased by 3 different investors. I think that shows that we don't have one person buying everything. Everyone has different interests, and it's a very fair process. So again, and the reason why I go through this analysis is I want the commissions to understand that even though you're taking about a third of what was owed to the city, we got to look at the big picture. That is, at least we're collecting some money that was owed to the city, in this case about $10,000, and it's more important to remove these properties from that inactive roll, put them back to the active roll, and that way the city no longer has to send their mowing crews out there to maintain these properties. So.
And what's the decision on that from y'all's standpoint regarding the liens from the mowing lawns? When we go ahead and sell or they get bought, what happens to any mowing liens that the city has?
If there is mowing liens that exist prior to the judgment, when we actually take judgment, we include, and we also represent the city for the mowing liens. So if I take a judgment in 2012 in some of these cases, and there's $2,000 owed in city liens, that amount is included with the taxes, and we actually think
it satisfies everything.
Right, it satisfies up until that point. Right. But technically what happens, Mayor, and we have this with every city across the state of Texas, what happens is, let's say that one of these properties was struck off back in 2012 because it didn't sell at a tax sale. For 2 years, the school owns it, but the school's not going to maintain the property. It's really the city that maintains the property. The city's the one who sends their mowing crews out there, but you can't attach a lien because technically you own the property in trust with all the other entities. Now, here recently, I know Mr. Samano has been working with the city of San Juan, the city of FAR, PSJ has at least, and this is something very new that we have in PSJ going on that's really not going on anywhere else. The school is actually willing to step up to the plate, and I know that they're looking at how we can kind of get a grasp of which properties are out there that are struck off to the school district and the cities, and the school is working with the cities to try to come up with some type of like a sharing program. Look, I'll maintain it this time, you do it the next time, or let's try to share the burden, so to speak. And I credit Mr. Samano for that because I think it's been a good initiative, and I think it kind of spreads the burden around.
When is that being closed?
We've been working on that for the past.
Or you're still working on that?
I'm sorry, Mayor?
Is that city by city or?
It's something that we're trying to finalize here within the PSJ area, between PSJ, FAR, San Juan, Alamo, and if it works successfully, which I don't see why it should not, then we'll probably end up trying to do the same in McAllen, Edinburgh, Don, and every other city and school that we represent.
Other questions? Is there a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mayor Commissioners, and I do excuse myself at this time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Khan.
Thank you.
Item G, consider variance request for the subdivision to not subdivide the property legally described as 3.21 acre tract of land being a portion of Lot 29, Block A, John Clauser subdivision located at the northeast corner of First Street and Oblates as requested by Reverend Amador Garza. Mr. Cervantes.
Yes, the Reverend Amador Garza, representing the Roman Catholic Church, is requesting a variance to the subdivision regulations to not subdivide the 3.21 acre property located at the northeast corner of First and Oblate Streets. The property was purchased by the church back in December 2012. The church is proposing to build a storage facility in that property to replace an existing facility close to the expressway. They are asking for a variance because they believe the funds spent on the subdivision process could be better used for the actual construction of the storage facility. The applicant agreed to comply with the water line extension and the installation of 2 fire hydrants as requested by the fire department. If the variance is approved, the applicant is proposing to have an entrance to the storage facility from Oblate Street. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended the variance subject to compliance with all city infrastructure.
I have a question regarding the entrance. I read that there was an entrance being proposed onto Oblate Street. Is there a way to access that through the parking area or through the other area? Because I'm not sure where on Oblate Street that's being proposed, because it's kind of short between First Street and then the entrance. Do you know about that? What on the entrance? What is that something? Where exactly between the exit, the first exit closest to First Street? You mentioned Oblate as a place to come in and out. Are you able to access that through the other parking that's there for the retirement home of the priests? Yes, we can. Okay. I see. Okay. Okay. So that's something you can consider to look at, and see if that's more feasible to be able to do it through that parking rather than to kind of space in the streets.
Our new maintenance shop and storage facility. The engineer is proposing that there's going to be big trucks going in to deliver merchandise that will be stored there. And the shortest route for us is from the street. Rather than, it would be very hard for them to turn around through that small parking lot where the retired priests live. I don't want to put semi-trucks in front of their house. I want to respect their privacy. So he is proposing, he had a conflict tonight and he couldn't come, and he has the plans. But he's proposing that the entrance be off of Oblate Street and then go around the facility to come back out.
I guess that it's like the other property, looking at what would be the best location for the traffic flow of the streets that are coming, because a lot of streets are in that area, and the fact that you've got a big intersection of First Street and Oblate for consideration, to look at that. Are there any other questions?
Father Amaro, what are you all going to do with your existing?
Demolish it.
Demolish it.
Except for the air conditioning chillers, which are very valuable and expensive to move. We're going to put a new welcome plaza there with a 10-foot tall statue, bronze statue of Our Lady of San Juan del Valle. Reconfigure the entrance and exits onto the property off of the frontage road. Expand parking. But we're just in the preliminary process with that. The landscape architect made an initial drawing, but we have to go to TxDOT. It's very close to the intersection, and we're gonna have to really work with TxDOT. Yeah.
That would be a great improvement as the exit, as people are driving in, putting something a little bit more aesthetically.
Yes, the maintenance shop there right now is kind of like an eyesore more than a welcoming site to the basilica. So we acquired this land and precisely to move the maintenance shop and use this space more efficiently.
Any other questions? Not, is there a motion for approval?
Motion to approve. Presented.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor state aye. Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Consent agenda approval of the minutes for June 10th, 2014, and B, budget expenditures for May 31st, 2014. I'd like to go ahead and hand the corrections to Mr. Rodriguez on the minutes. And I've got some questions on the expenditures, Mr. Gomez. This is for May 31st, and so I looked at the accounts based also looking at our audit report and the fact that we are trying to not expend any more and not hiring at this point. I want to bring your attention to some of these items that you've placed. I don't see the number at the bottom of my page, but on legislative, we're at 106.17 expensed. negative 3,593. Is that something we've been carrying for a while?
Well, basically, those particular items, it's most of the items has gone through. Basically, those are special events that we have incurred, and some membership dues for Lower Rio Grande Valley and Amigos del Valle membership dues. And so I don't expect those
More than that.
expenditures to be more than that. Yes.
Okay, under city secretary miscellaneous, $5,000, 143% expended.
CD?
Mhm.
Which one, Mayor?
Miscellaneous city secretary, Mr. Rodriguez.
Okay, miscellaneous on that particular item, Mayor, that was regarding the mail out for the charter and the voting flyer expenses. And so those pushed those expenditures to be over.
Could we do appropriations in April?
I believe we look in that, but
That?
we could have made a budget adjustment.
But did we do that? We didn't include any
On
of this?
those, I don't recall, Mayor.
Okay, these are the ones you're gonna have to do now before we close it up for the year. Try to reconcile by moving
Right.
from other line items. Under police capital outlay, we're at 113. That one should probably stop at that point.
Right, Mayor. That's a particular purchase that the reason it went up over budget is they purchased a server. They encumbered that amount. You see the 12,965. They encumbered that because they needed a server for, I believe, for 911 phone calls.
One time expense.
One
I'm not
time,
gonna
yes.
keep going.
One time we did that exception.
Okay, under administration, miscellaneous, 231% expended, 22,000 over. What would that be?
That administration, the 29,000?
The 22,000, it says that we're at 231%.
Right. Oh, that particular, Mayor, those are the grants, chapter 360 grants that we paid, and it's based on actually construction value, and so basically we're paying on those grants that we issued on the basically on their dealerships.
Okay. And then on under municipal court, other it's just other revenues, 169 and 169%. Is that ongoing, or is that I don't know what those are?
Yeah, those are basically most of the amounts are already encumbered, and so we should not be able to see any more additional expenses on those.
No additional. Okay.
Right.
Under police, crime victims liaison, 208%. Purchase of professional services, 208%. Is that done also? I don't have page number directed.
Oh, okay.
Crime victims liaison grant.
What is the budget? There's a number.
It says it's the number, I hole punched.
Oh, okay.
It says crime liaisons grant.
Okay, let me find that budget.
So we just need to fund it. We'll get reimbursed for it through the grant. So it's showing right now as expend, but it'll be reimbursed. Okay.
Yes, correct.
Gotcha. Okay, sir, thank you.
We do those on a quarterly basis, Mayor. We get a bunch, and then we go ahead and submit it for reimbursement with the state.
And overall, Mr. Gomez, as you looked at the expenses up to May, and we still have another, few months, 3 months or so to go. As far as the expenses, have we issued something to our departments about the budget, and are you anticipating any type of appropriations before the end of the year?
Yes, Mayor, that's a good question. Basically, send out a memo to the departments that right now we're operating at minimal levels as far as the purchase of our supplies. And also as far as the hiring, I mean, we're still hiring, but only non-essentials personnel. And so, but we're trying to basically cut back and maybe start hiring at the beginning of the fiscal year. And so far, I mean, what we're trying to do, the finance department, is basically break even. We don't want to have any additional expenditures exceeding the revenues. Just to let you know, currently we have about $926,000 left. As far as what I mean is that right now we have additional revenues than expenditures because of the property taxes. We got the bulk of it has been received. And so right now we have about $126,000. Of course, that's being decreased on a monthly basis because, we have additional expenses. And so I foresee basically, to trying to break even, hopefully, just most likely because of the two adjustments that we did to the budget, which is longevity pay that we paid, and we paid also the one-time payment to personnel. And so that amount probably, we probably we're not be able to absorb it, most likely. But of course, I mean, that's not anything close to what we had last fiscal year.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, if I may,
Go
just
ahead.
touch real quick on Mr. Gomez. Staff been informed that any hirings that can wait until October 1st, we're gonna wait for that to make sure that we hire, and with the recommendation of Mr. Gomez, that's staff been informed on that. But also, there's been some hirings that we have to do based on the fact that for Parks and Rec, for Public Works, that we have to hire those essential personnel to continue the services for the city. So the hiring has stopped for those people that we can wait until October 1st, but any essential personnel that we need to hire, on the recommendation of Mr. Gomez, we have done that.
Is there a motion for approval?
To approve as presented?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. The City of San Juan Commission will convene its executive session in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Vernon's Texas statutes, and codes annotated Government Code Chapter 551, Subchapter D, exceptions to requirement that the meeting be open, Texas Government Code, Section 551.072, deliberating regarding real property, to deliberate the purchase, exchange, and value of real property. A, to deliberate and discuss the purchase of real property, Garza Peña Elementary School from PSJA, San Juan Alamo Independent School District. We will enter executive session at 8:17. for executive session. Section A, to deliberate and discuss the purchase of real property, Garza Peña Elementary School from FAR San Juan Alamo Independent School District at 842. Council?
Mayor, I'm simply requesting a motion that would allow me to discuss with the schools council as we discuss in executive session.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned at 8:43.